Hello everyone. In my previous two videos, I discussed and demonstrated the use of 4NEC2 antenna designing software. I used half-wave dipole and a quarter-wave monopole in those tutorials. This video will be rather theoretical and will actually be a build-up for my next 4NEC2 tutorial. In this video, we will be mostly talking about radiation pattern. So let's get started. If we go by the standard literature, antenna is a metallic device that can radiate. We know that we live in an age of wireless communication, and an antenna designer would know that antennas are not that simple. Thankfully, in this video we will not discuss much about the complexity of the antennas. I have also placed three figures of antennas that we see around us commonly. Now let us talk about radiation pattern. Actually, what antenna does? It radiates, and depending upon its structure, it radiates in a defined shape. Let's imagine this rod is an antenna. How will it radiate? Let's say like this. This pattern is known as radiation pattern. A radiation pattern is surely graphical, as we can see, but how it is mathematical we'll know by the end of this video. Radiation pattern can also be represented using a two-dimensional figure. This is known as polar plot. Radiation pattern is naturally three-dimensional. One can imagine it like a balloon. When it inflates, it takes a three-dimensional shape. Some balloon takes a heart shape, some are elongated when they blow up, just because they were made that way. Three-dimensional pattern looks very pretty, but sadly they don't talk much. On the other hand, two-dimensional radiation pattern may look plain and dull, but they are quite informative. With a two-dimensional radiation pattern, one can see the position of maxima and minima. One can also find the gain in terms of electric field, magnetic field, or power. Polarization of the radiation pattern can also be seen, which is basically the symmetry of the pattern in two dimensions. Also, one might figure out the beam width of the radiation pattern. This is a polar plot. A polar plot is a graph over which the radiation pattern can be drawn. This plot is having two scales. One is the curved scale, which is having angles in degrees. Another is a radial scale, which will have intensity. This intensity can be of electric field, magnetic field, or power. This scale is normalized. That means the maxima is 1 and the minima is 0. Also, the shapes that we make on this plot is trigonometrical shapes. How they are trigonometrical? Let's see in other slide. We know the common trigonometrical function sine theta. If we plot it on a linear scale, we'll get a figure like this. But in antenna theory, while drawing radiation pattern, we don't use this graph. We use a polar plot to draw sine theta. When you draw sine theta over a polar plot, you will see that the maxima will occur at 90 degree because sine 90 is 1 and sine 270 is minus 1, and the minimas will come at 0 and 180 degree. Similarly, cos theta, if you draw it now, generally you will see this kind of graph, but again in antenna we don't do this. We again draw a polar plot. In this polar plot we'll get maxima at 0 degree and 180 degree and minima at 90 and 270 degree. Before moving on to array theory, let us see this type of figure as well, because we are going to see a lot in next slides. We should know what is isotropic antenna. An isotropic antenna is an antenna which is of dot shape or a small ball shaped, and it is expected to have uniform current distribution. An antenna that has uniform current distribution will radiate from all its parts. and will have a uniform current distribution. So because of this, an isotropic antenna will radiate like a sphere. A sphere, if seen two-dimensionally, it will look like a circle. And let us imagine that if this small antenna, this dot-shaped antenna radiates, the first half cycle it radiates is represented by a blue colored circle, and the second half cycle, which is a negative half cycle it radiates, is shown by a red colored circle. So eventually the complete cycle is of lambda wavelength. This is the positive half and the other one is the negative half. From this point onwards, we will start studying antenna arrays. I think now we are fully equipped to start studying antenna arrays. An antenna array is a collection of the similar type of antennas. They are usually made to increase the gain in certain directions and to restrict the radiation pattern in other directions. The arrays are mostly used in mobile towers. The mobile towers has an array of dipole which are collinearly placed. It is also used in TV transmission and reception. A terrestrial TV transmitter has an array of turnstile antennas. They are known as super turnstile antennas, and at the receiver side we use usually Yagi-Uda or log periodic dipole array. Sometimes radar also use an array of microstrip antenna. The array of microstrip antenna has a very good gain and aperture. Now let us see what types of arrays are there. There is one array known as broadside array. Let us see what it is. When an isotropic element radiates, we already saw that it radiates with the shape of a sphere. A sphere can be seen two-dimensionally as a circle. See, I have already told you that this blue colored circle, we are imagining it like a positive half cycle, and the red colored circle is the negative half cycle. So when in close to this isotropic element, another isotropic element is placed at a distance of lambda by 2, and if the second element is also given the same supply with the same phase, it will also radiate in the same way. So if we observe these intersecting circles, we can see that the red color is intersecting and the blue color is intersecting in the 90-degree direction and the 270-degree direction. And in these linear directions, in the line of the antenna array, axis of the antenna array, we are getting this blue and red circles are getting intersected. Even if we draw them further, these concentric circles, they will have intersection of blue and red colored circles only. That means here in the 0 degree and 180 degree, destructive interference is going on, and at 90 degree and 270 degree, constructive interference is going on because the crust and the trough and trough are being intersected like this. So in end-fire array, which is the second type of array, there is an isotropic element which is radiating in the same way as we saw earlier, but now when we put another element near to it at lambda by 2 distance, we don't feed it with the same phase. Rather than that, we feed it with an opposite phase. So because of that, what will happen, when the positive half cycle of one element is present, at the same time negative half cycle of another element is present. So these two elements are radiating in opposite phases. So the inner circle of this antenna is red and the inner circle of this antenna is blue. So because of this, what is happening, the destructive interference, that means the red and blue intersection, is happening at 90 degree and 270 degree directions, and the constructive interference, that means blue and red and red will intersect at 0 degree and 180 degree directions. So as a result, the radiation maxima will go towards 0 degree and 180 degree. So we'll see this in the form of radiation pattern as well. But again, the radiation pattern in a polar plot can be only drawn if we have a trigonometrical function. So let us talk about what is an array factor. Array factor is again a trigonometrical identity which will help us to draw the radiation pattern of an array over a polar plot. So let us imagine that there are two isotropic elements placed at a d distance from each other, and we just select an arbitrary position at which these two elements are radiating. These two red lines are showing the direction of radiation of these two elements. We can see that one of the line is larger and the other line is smaller in distance if they are trying to reach at the same point. Why? Because we picked the point in such a way. So if we want to find out that how much distance this line is covering more than this line, we'll have to drop a perpendicular from this point to this larger line. We'll get a triangle. Let's say this triangle has this acute angle as theta and the distance, this hypotenuse, is of size d. So according to Pythagoras theorem, we'll have d cos theta as the path difference between these two rays. So this path difference will help us calculate the phase difference, because the formula for phase difference is path difference into beta, where beta is the phase constant. So if we ignore this delta right now, this beta d cos theta is actually phase difference, where phase difference is denoted by this symbol psi. And let's see what is this delta. As we have seen that there are two types of array broadly, broadside and endfire. In endfire array, we are giving opposite supply to these consecutive elements, and in broadside array, we are giving same phase supply to these elements. There can be other combinations also where we are giving them 90° out of phase supply or 45° out of phase supply. So this supplied phase difference is denoted by this delta. And again, I'm directly jumping towards this, how this array factor is being calculated. I am not actually going to the derivation of this, how this cos psi by 2 came. Let's just directly imagine that due to some geometrical calculations, we got this cos psi by 2. We'll place this psi inside this cos psi by 2, and this cos psi by 2 will help us to draw the polar plot. So rather than using pen and paper or mathematical calculations, I am using a MATLAB code to draw polar plot. Fortunately, MATLAB has a graph known as polar, which can be used to draw these kind of graphs using some mathematical code. Again, I'm not going into the details of how this code is written. I'm not explaining this code. We'll do this some other time. But only thing you should notice that we are actually plotting this E naught, which is array factor. So once you plot this E naught, which is array factor, if you put everything, the distance, the supplied phase difference according to the broadside array, you will get broadside radiation, where 90 and 270 will be maximas and 0 and 180° will be minimas. And in endfire radiation, you will get 0 and 180° as maximas and 90 and 270 as minimas. Until now we have seen broadside array and endfire array of isotropic elements. But I've also said that isotropic elements are not real, they are hypothetical. But while studying antenna arrays, we use isotropic elements because their radiation pattern is spherical and it is a very simple shape, and it is easier to understand the behavior of an array using isotropic elements. But eventually we'll have to know how actual antenna arrays behave. So to help with this, we have a principle known as principle of pattern multiplication. This principle has a statement that you are seeing right now in the screen. We'll not go through this statement. You will see it in all the standard literatures. Let me explain this in easier way. See, we know the radiation pattern of a half wave dipole. I have actually drawn this and made this practically in my first video, where I have used 4NEC2 to make the radiation pattern, to simulate the radiation pattern of a half wave dipole. It radiates in a donut shape, and a donut shape in a vertical plane will look like this figure of 8. And in the previous slides we have seen a broadside array radiates with the pattern of 8. So if you want to make an array of half wave dipole, if you want to make a broadside array of two half wave dipoles, principle of pattern multiplication comes to help. Principle of pattern multiplication says that if you know the radiation pattern of a real antenna, and if you know the radiation pattern of a broadside array of isotropic elements, You can multiply these two radiation patterns to get the resultant radiation pattern, which is actually a broadside array of a half-wave dipole. The same thing can be done with the help of an end-fire array also, or any kind of array can be made, or we can use any practical antenna to make the radiation pattern of that antenna. So rather than calculating the radiation pattern of a complex antenna after making its array, principle of pattern multiplication says that we should know the basics of broadside array and end-fire array and use them to find out the radiation pattern of an array of real antennas. So this method of explanation is graphical, and there is another way also. So we have this half-wave dipole and a broadside array. If we want to multiply their radiation patterns, actually we'll have to multiply these two expressions, where this expression is the expression for the radiation pattern of a half-wave dipole, and this one is the array factor of a broadside array. When you multiply these two, you will get an expression something like this. So if we again use MATLAB or Scilab kind of a tool to draw the polar plot of this expression, it can be done, right? So principle of pattern multiplication tells us exactly that uh, a resultant radiation pattern is the multiplication of an actual antenna's radiation pattern and the radiation pattern of an array. What I have done, that the code with the help of which I drew radiation pattern over a polar plot, I used that same code to draw the radiation pattern of some permutation and combinations. If we just go to the previous slides, this formula, we have d and delta that can be changed, where d is the spacing between the two elements and delta is the supplied phase difference. What I have done in this slide is, from left to right I have changed the supplied phase difference, and from top to bottom I have increased the distance between the two isotropic elements. And we can observe here that as the distance between the two elements is increased, the minimas start appearing. Why? Because if the radiation pattern of the two elements overlap each other nearly, we'll again get a circle because they are not interfering destructively anywhere. But as the distance between these two are increased, we'll start seeing minimas somewhere or the other. So you can see that also when we increase the phase difference between the two elements, the broadside array eventually will reach towards the end fire behavior. So many conclusions can be drawn using this figure, and it is good to analyze the behavior of a broadside array and the end fire array and the combinations between these two arrays. So with this I'll stop this tutorial, because I think right now whatever we have studied is good to start making broadside and end fire array of dipoles using 4NEC2 tool. So I'll see you in next video, where we'll see to make array of half wave dipoles, and we'll see how to make broadside array as well and end fire array as well. Thank you.